You had the good fortune of knowing JD Vance actually in college, both of you at Yale Law School together. How would you describe him then?
JD was somebody who was always very sincere. He's an earnest guy. We built our friendship not around politics, but around a passion for watching some failing Cincinnati Bengals games. So we were the only two lone guys cheering for the Bengals. Both from Ohio. We grew up both in Southwest Ohio. We didn't know each other back then, but we met in law school where we were classmates. His wife, Usha, was also in our class. It's also where I happened to meet my wife, who was in med school at the same time. And we became friends over the years. They live in Cincinnati. We live now in Ohio as well. Our kids are of roughly similar ages. They've read some of the same books, and we spent a Thanksgiving together even a few years ago. So I've been really grateful to not only for our friendship, but so proud of him to see landing in the position he has, and I think he's going to be an outstanding vice president for the country.
He's talked about in the past the hope of Obama in the White House, of admiring Bill Clinton. You knew him during this time of this political evolution. Can you kind of explain, once you did have any kind of conversations, even later in life, what that evolution looked like?
Well, look, you'll have to ask JD about the specifics of his own policy views, and he and I have, even to this day, some differences in our policy vision for the country. One of the things about our relationship, and one of the things that I think will make him an excellent vice president, is that he's very good at engaging in thoughtful discourse. He's made me think about things differently. I think I've had the same effect in the other direction, and I think that reflects a true leader who is allowed their thoughts to evolve over time. I'll say one of the things about JD is he didn't come from the business world. I had some business background before I went to law school. I went back into the business world. JD did enter the business world afterwards, and I got to say, I can imagine that had some impact on his experience in seeing the real world effects of not only policies from both political parties, but his own experiences and his own journey as well. He obviously wrote a great book, Hillbilly Elegy. I know from my experience in writing my books as well that there's nothing that forces you to really discover your own convictions like actually putting it down on paper, being challenged. So I think it's great to be able, for America to be able to see there's a leader here at the near highest level who has gone through an evolution. And I also think it's going to make him uniquely suited as a messenger for President Trump to explain to voters who may not have voted for Trump in 2016 or 2020, to say that I didn't vote for him back then either, but here's why I came along to be one of his strongest supporters. And I think that could actually be quite authentic and compelling to bring and give permission to other people to do the same.
You mentioned Hillbilly Elegy. His wife, Usha, apparently helped him with the research for that book. She was actually registered as a Democrat just until 2014. I know you mentioned in your speech last night that the good thing about this country is you can argue and then still get around the dinner table together. Have you all ever had any debates at all with Usha?
Yeah, to tell you the truth, no. Although we know each other well, we talk more about family, we've talked a lot about culture. We talk a lot about even our time of learning the law and different perspectives. She is brilliant. She's actually a very talented lawyer and thought leader in her own right, although that's a very different profile and track than being in the world of politics. And between Apoorva and myself, we have immense respect for both of them, actually. And the other thing is we look at our families in the same way. If JD's as good of a father and as good of a vice president as he is a father and as he is a husband and as he is a friend, I think he's going to be an outstanding asset to this country, and I am hopeful, not just for him, but for the country, that he's going to lead this country to a revival. You
mentioned that you've had some conversations about culture. As an Indian American, what do you think it means for this country to potentially have a second lady who's an Indian American?
Look, I think that the beauty of this country is there's more to us than our different shades of melanin or ethnic backgrounds, but to say there's a common thread that unites all of us across those differences. With that common thread, then our diversity becomes a beautiful thing. But I think part of what's happened in the country for so long is we have celebrated those superficial differences while losing the common actual thread that unites all of us. I think one of the beautiful things about JD's story, Usha's story, my wife Apoorva's story, and mine as well, is that we've all in different ways lived the American dream. We weren't necessarily, and certainly in any other country in the world, supposed to achieve the heights and successes that we've been afforded in this country. And in JD's case, to be able to speak to that as the vice president and to be able to also translate that to a policy vision for how we expand that American dream to more Americans, I think is a beautiful thing. I think it's going to be powerful. I personally find it inspiring, and I hope that he's able to share that story with the rest of the country as well.
Lastly, if you all are successful in winning the election, you have your eye on a particular cabinet seat?
We've had some great conversations with President Trump. I want to be respectful of those conversations, but he and I are aligned that big impact is what we're shooting for. And so, one of the lessons I learned early was, lucky to get a piece of advice early in my career, was it takes about as much effort to do something small and to do it well as it does to do something really big and to do it well. And I think I'm aligned with President Trump that we want it to be something really big, and put myself in a position to do it really well for the country.
Vivek Ramaswamy, I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Good to see you again.